because I wanted to show people that yes, I'm still alive, even though if you're on my socials and you have followed me for a bit, I'm on Blue Sky and on Spoutable, you know I still do bonnet shorts or just shorts with my hair loose, which I did today for this opening. It's the holidays, so I'm going to preface that I will not be here on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, but I will be on YouTube hopefully on Saturday for a fun thing. It's the holidays. I just want to bring some fun into this. So, welcome to Craft and Chat. We are going to get to the actual craft and chat part soon. So, please do not worry about that. But I just wanted to give some updates and say thank you so much to everybody who's been watching stuff. I know that the Twitch stuff and the YouTube stuff, I took a bit of a break. I needed it after November 2024 when our country decided to go full fascist. And there is so much that I can make fun of. Like currently with our vice president, there is trouble in paradise for JD and Usha. And I'm not just, speculate. And when you've got gossip rags talking about your relationship, as you can see here, Donald Trump's closest ally reportedly facing divorce. When you've got the rags talking about this, you have to start seeing it as trouble on the rocks. And the reason why people are speculating is because of this. JD Kirk's wife, Erica, decided for some reason that she was going to show that she could be a better woman than Usha for him. And people have been speculating for months after that hug in her tight leather pants whether there's trouble in paradise, coupled with JD doing nonsense like, oh, I'm trying to get Usha to convert. So let's just start off lighthearted that Mr. Eyeliner Catchfucker would really throw away a marriage with Usha, despite her being a shield for his white supremacy, as far as I'm concerned, is an accomplished lawyer, has so much under her belt, while Erica Kirk inherited Turning Point, but that's just a completely racist outlet that ended up taking out her partner early on this year. So it's like I said, it's gonna be messy these next few months to see what happens between the Vances and see if Erica Kirk slides in more than just these hugs. I don't know. But I wanted to start with just saying hello, telling you that I'm back. I'm going to try to stay on a consistent schedule here on Twitch and try to do my Saturdays on YouTube and just try to bring fun back to it. It's going to be a variety until I figure out what's what because my Saturday stream got heated because I thought I could use my personal collection of C dramas and not have to worry about that. And YouTube said no. So I'm not gonna poke that bear anymore. I don't want that. As you can see, I'm still dealing with the dental stuff. I'm not at my goal weight yet. There's health reasons for that, but they're not bad. So don't worry about that. I am still on the losing track, but it's a lot slower. I plateaued, and I'd rather be honest about that and transparent like some people haven't been. I also, with Greg, and I gave this update, but I didn't show a lot of it. We had our 10-year recommitment ceremony. So I added an extra ring. You sometimes see it when I'm painting, which we will be doing today, to my engagement ring. It's our forever band. And I have just been in a really, really good place. Axiom finally got its ebook on Apple. I still have the physical copies selling. The ebooks are on sale until January with 75% off, so you can get our first sci fi novel cheap and our second, which I designed the cover for, Terror's Destiny's Chosen. When I went into writing, I had all the fears of imposter syndrome. I had all the fears that maybe people won't be into sci-fi, but I've gotten such positive feedback and reviews, and now I'm helping Greg with his first fantasy adventure novel. I'm excited about that. I'm also working on Alderun. I am putting all the files together for that, and I'm like super Like, you don't know how excited I am for some of the creative projects. And of course, I've been doing my 3D printing. You'll be able to see this a little bit clearer because this is my paint model. My really ride or die friend's daughter is so into Highland cows. And now that I have a 3D printer, which you might hear in the back because I'm fulfilling a lot of orders for the holidays and getting stuff done for my friend's shop, when I say people can request things from me now because of Triple Studios and I can literally make stuff, I am currently printing up a devil fruit from One Piece. I'll probably show that off on Saturday because I'm making one for myself because Robin is absolutely my favorite One Piece character. I'm a blur, can't help it, don't care. So it's like I said, I just wanted to open with a hello. I'm still alive. I'm still here. I'm trying to get back to my rotation. Things are looking up. In spite of everything going on in our country, things are really looking up for my household. We have been very savvy and smart with our budgeting. And while this Thanksgiving is probably going to be the same as last year because I shopped smart and got things early, I'm not going to be in your face about it because I know there are a lot of Americans right now that aren't in that boat and it fucking sucks. But it's like I said, politics has consequences. And you need to vote like it's a personal investment. And hey, thank you, Red Baron. Let me bop this down, get back to my normal format, and happy prosperity to you and yours as well. I am so excited for this holiday season. And hey, thank you for the alert, Solomon Isle. I gotta get you a call or a text later because I want to send you something 3D printed, but I'm trying to decide if it's gonna be more D&D or video game-ish. So I'll hit you up with a text later on, dear. But it's like I said, I'm in a good place. I'm in a good mood. I literally came back to YouTube recently without the eating to clear up the air on some stuff that was spread about me. And like I said, I don't have to get angry when it's lies. But I'm starting to notice that the people that lied on my name are starting to reap what they sowed. So I feel a bit more comfortable now than I did even a few months ago. Because it's like I said, I am in my 40s. Arguing with people, jumping into fights with people, that was 20-year-old Tim. 40-year-old Tim just wants to protect my peace, stay in my wheelhouse, and bring joy. So while we are going to talk about Trump's really bad Monday, we're going to finish up with something fun. Because as a Gen Xer, I just need to remind people that, we didn't do this feuding online. We didn't like do covert stuff to have gotchas on people. If you had beef with people in my day, you fought them. And I know, oh, they're savage. I don't care. I don't care if it's savage. I'm gonna pull my hair back too. I don't care if it's savage. I don't care. I grew up in a different time, and we are going to explore that too. But we are going to get started on this Christmas Highland Cow for my friend's daughter. We're going to bop the art reference up that I used to create the model. We're going to play some anonymous and comment on it. And then we are also going to wrap it up with what I think is a take on people my age and why I don't get down for the nonsense anymore. It's just how it is. But like I said, we got the Highland Cow. I'm really excited to paint it. And it is going to be a lot of fun. So let's get Anonymous started up while we're at it. And we'll commentate on so much that has gone on Trump's really bad week. And no problem, Red Baron. I just thank you all for sitting in. Yous have been real ones, and I really, truly appreciate that about y'all. And even if you have to lurk and rewatch, I am always happy for it. Okay, we're gonna get Anonymous fired up. We're gonna start painting this Christmas cow, and we are gonna have a good time.
We are anonymous. We do not rise for applause. We rise when corruption becomes too loud to ignore, when a single man's ego turns a global summit into a stage for conspiracy, and when the world finally decides it has had enough. Today we reveal the full story of how world leaders humiliated Donald Trump in his absence at the G20 in South Africa, how they moved forward without him, how they exposed his irrelevance without even mentioning his name, and how the world is quietly preparing to operate without the United States at the center. because Trump has dragged its credibility into the dirt. This is a complete narrative, expanded, sharpened, and ready for recording without breaks, without sections, only truth flowing from start to finish. The G20 summit in South Africa should have been a celebration of African leadership, diplomacy, and global cooperation. It was the first G20 hosted on African soil, a historic moment where nations could highlight Africa's role in shaping economic futures, green transitions, and geopolitical balance. But instead of joining this historic moment, Trump turned it into a spectacle by refusing to show up.
And considering how important the G20 summit is, not only for global trade talks, geopolitical issues that can be solved by just showing basic level diplomacy, the fact that our current sitting president, as much as I hate to call him that, refused to do this, refused to do the bare minimum as president of the United States by showing up at this summit, it's embarrassing. But it's not surprising to those of us who warned you he is like this, a petulant 80-year-old child.
Boycotted the summit over a racist conspiracy theory claiming there is a white genocide happening in South Africa.
A white genocide in South Africa. But I had people tell me he's not racist. I had people tell me that this man knows what he's talking about and tells it like it is. There's no white genocide in South Africa. If anything, apartheid killed more black South Africans than I care to even relate. It's ridiculous. But it's not surprising from a racist dictator. Ridiculous. Let's get you fired back up, Anonymous.
A lie pushed by far-right extremists and repeatedly debunked by courts, analysts, researchers, and even conservative think tanks. Crime exists, yes, but it affects all communities. There is no genocide. Yet Trump chose this lie because it fuels fear, fuels division, fuels his base, and gives him an excuse to avoid being in the room with real leaders. So the United States, once seen as a pillar of the global order, was missing. And instead of begging America to return, the world simply adjusted. World leaders were not confused. They were relieved. For years, Trump disrupted summits, insulted allies, mocked treaties, stormed out of negotiations, demanded attention, and behaved like a wrecking ball in every diplomatic room he entered. This time, the world got to work without his tantrums. The G20 instantly became the G19, and the most brutal humiliation for Trump came not from words, but from what the G19 accomplished without him. They did something unprecedented. They released their joint declaration at the very beginning of the summit, instead of delaying it for days due to U.S. objections, edits, and last-minute sabotage. This time with no Trump, no American delegation pushing self-serving demands. The declaration was approved immediately. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa read the declaration proudly. He said the G20 must not allow its integrity to be weakened, that the summit should strengthen global institutions, not fracture them. He thanked delegations for working in good faith, a message aimed squarely at the one nation that refused to show up. He declared that multilateralism delivers, that no country, no community, and no person should be left behind.
This G20 Leader Summit has a responsibility not to allow the integrity and the credibility of the G20 to be weakened. In fact, from this summit, we should have a sense that the G20 has been strengthened. We thank all delegations that have worked together with us in good faith to produce a worthy G20 outcome document for this historic leaders meeting. The G20 underscores the value of the relevance of multilateralism. It recognizes that the challenges that we face can only be resolved through cooperation, collaboration, and partnership. The adoption of the declaration from the summit sends an important signal to the world that multilateralism can and does deliver. It sends a message of hope and solidarity across the world. It tells the world that as the leaders of the G20, we will keep fast to our solemn pledge to leave no person, no community, and no country behind.
Every part of his speech contradicted Trump's worldview. Trump believes in isolation, nationalism, and chaos. Ramaphosa spoke of cooperation, unity, and responsibility.
And I remind you that xenophobia only hurts the United States. Without trade partnerships, it harms us both industrially, agriculturally, and growth as a nation. I do not and I cannot understand people in this day and age that doesn't understand that we cannot be isolationists. It didn't work back in the 40s, which is why when we finally got into World War II, we signed so many treaties and we were supposed to stick to them. But too many people don't seem to understand that. And it's just a shame because your bigotry is going to doom us all. Your need to hate people who are different than you is going to doom us all. It makes no sense.
Then Finland's president, Alexander Stubb, stepped up with Nordic precision. He reminded the world that Finns are known for speaking briefly and loving rules qualities that Trump mocks because he cannot follow either.
You know that Finns are famous for two things. One, they speak very shortly, and two, they love rules. And I hope I will stick to both.
Stubb pointed out that global power is shifting east and south, that institutions built after World War II no longer reflect modern realities, and that multilateralism is the only path to stability.
And you are doing it at a time when there clearly is a change in the world order, where I believe personally that the nexus of power is moving eastbound and southbound. And now I think all of us pretty much have a choice. And the choice is between multilateralism, which you are representing, and multipolarity. And these two things are very different. For me, multilateralism is about cooperation, it's about rules, it's about norms, and it's about institutions. I like these rules because they are the ones that bring exactly the thing that you have up there on the board: solidarity, equality, and sustainability. My big worry right now is that the world is moving more in a multipolar direction. And multipolarity, though it gives power to nation states as such, is problematic because it's more transactional.
He warned that a world moving toward transactional multipolar chaos is more prone to war, exactly the kind of environment Trump encourages with his America First isolationism.
Because he wants to wag the dog his presidency. Let's keep it 100. The man knows that he is tanking domestically simply from the terrorism that he's unleashing on citizens with his goons. And then he's causing hiccups abroad in the Caribbean and beyond by declaring people and nations our enemies with no proof. Trying to do a whole nother war on drugs, which didn't work out well in the 80s, whether people want to believe it or not. But what do you expect from a man this old? And I say this as a Gen Xer who's about to reminisce about some fun stuff before we wrap the cast up later on down. There's a time for reminiscing, and there's a legit time to move forward. And Trump does not know how to move forward, because if you move forward, you realize that men who think like him are literally obsolete.
He listed Ukraine, Gaza, and Sudan as crises made worse by the collapse of the rules-based order. And he urged the West to reform institutions so smaller countries could trust the system again.
One, Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine. Two, the situation in Gaza. And three, the situation in Sudan. So I hope that we lean towards multilateralism. And let me say, coming from a small country, what I believe the West should do in this. I think the West should understand that the multilateral institutions that were created after World War II and that were upheld after the Cold War, the power structure of them is right now unfair. It needs to be changed. We need to distribute power in a world that exists today, not the world that existed in 19...
not just a globalized power structure, but a globalized economy. It is beyond time because one of the leading things that cause conflict is the separation of such. And while I'm still not on board with digital money yet because it's not fairly backed, and I still don't trust crypto enough to waste actual physical money in, even though I know some people are like, oh, you can get rich. I don't see it. I don't see it. I see way too many Americans who invest in stuff like Trump's coin and lose out. So I'm gonna wait till it's federally backed to even take a look at it. I don't care if it's late in the game. The thing is, we can't even move that way because we've got assholes like Putin, Un, and Trump all in the same ilk, keeping us from being a globalized planet. And it's tiring.
45, that is the best way for us to drive multilateralism and get it back on track. Thank you very much. 3 minutes and 12 seconds.
Every diplomat in the room knew exactly whom he was rebuking. South African analysts went further. Dr. Oscar van Heerden said openly that the summit worked better without Trump, calling him a disruptor who would have thrown tantrums, chased cameras, and derailed negotiations. Without him, leaders reached consensus quickly. He called Trump a cancer on global diplomacy, and he was right. When one man continually praises dictators, undermines treaties, spreads conspiracy theories, and sabotages institutions, his presence becomes toxic. Remove him and suddenly the world breathes again. Sky News in the UK reported that Trump's absence overshadowed the summit because he was trying to force a peace plan for Ukraine drafted by Russia's sovereign wealth fund.
And that peace plan would have left the Ukraine at a severe disadvantage, would have had them cede lands that legally and rightfully belong to their country. Anybody who's been paying attention to this aggressive war that Vladimir Putin did because he's another doddering old man that should have been gone already because he was struggling with a big health issue. We know that you cannot concede to somebody who just invaded your land for the funsies. But Trump doesn't care.
Translated on Google and presented as U.S. policy. European leaders were furious. They held side meetings, drafted their own statement, and warned Trump that Ukraine's survival would not be traded away for his political self-interest.
Yep.
Countries like Germany, France, Italy, Japan, Canada, Poland, Norway, Spain, and the Netherlands all rejected Trump's surrender plan. They insisted Ukraine, not Trump, not Russia, must decide its own future. This was a global revolt against Trump's attempt to outsource American foreign policy to Moscow. In Australia, the same pattern emerged. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese emphasized the importance of the G20, noting it represents 85% of the global economy.
The G20 is such an important gathering. It's the most important gathering for which Australia is a member. It represents 85% of the global economy, 75% of global trade.
While Trump boycotted the summit in anger, Albanese talked about jobs, trade climate resilience, and economic growth.
It's important for us to engage because 1 in 4 of Australia's jobs depends upon trade, and it is important, therefore, that I represent Australia at forums like this, advancing Australia's economic interests and supporting Australian jobs.
He focused on substance while Trump focused on conspiracies. Meanwhile, Canadian Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand fielded questions about whether talks were easier without Trump. She answered diplomatically, but the implication was unmistakable. Yes, they were. Across the summit world, leaders posted photos with each other. Macron.
And once again, not to interrupt, Canada is going to kick our ass with their 10-year plan for global trading, all because they understand the assignment. That country understands that they cannot be held back by our country's refusal to get with the program. And between PM Carney and his administration, they have laid out a feasible plan to be global leaders in the next 10 years. And as a country that depends on them from everything from lumber, and I say that in Michigan where we have lumber as well, but Canada provides a lot of our lumber, paper, and other agricultural trade things. That's why they were so key in NAFTA along with Mexico. And President Goddard is fucking up with them and Mexico. So pretty soon, neither one of those countries are going to need us. And that's bad for business.
Starmer, Modi von der Leyen, Lula, Kishida, Ramaphosa, showing unity, professionalism, and empathy. They shared moments of trust and collaboration. These pictures were more than symbolic. They showed the world what diplomacy looks like without chaos. They made Trump's absence even more humiliating because the world looked normal again. Meanwhile, back in the United States, chaos grew. Airlines canceled flights to Venezuela amid signs of imminent U.S. military escalation. In Gaza, the supposed ceasefire deal collapsed instantly. Civilians died, including children. It became clear there was never a real peace agreement, only American media.
And I've been saying that. It was a ploy. They wanted to try and say stuff like, oh, Trump deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for what? And now people are suffering again. Way to go.
Trying to prop up Trump's image. While world leaders handled crises in South Africa and Geneva, Trump wandered around in bizarre outfits, bragging about reinstituting a golf course and meeting Jack Nicklaus.
We're going to Andrews Air Force Base. Which, considering everything the shutdown is still having ramifications with, this should not be any of his top priorities. But Sleepy Joe, Kamala too qualified, we just excuse incompetence and a person who really does not care about this country because of white supremacy, whether you want to admit it or not. We do some work, especially for our great Air Force. We're doing some fix-up of the base, which you see. We're going to try and reinstitute the golf course. We got meeting with the great Jack Nicklaus.
He looked unserious because he is unserious. He looked lost because he is lost. And he acted like a man more interested in his swing than in global stability. Then came one of the biggest scandals. Trump's Commerce Department approved the export of NVIDIA's Blackwell AI chips to Saudi Arabia. These chips were previously described as vital to national security, so sensitive that giving them to China would be disastrous. Yet Trump hands them to a regime deeply tied to his family's business interests, a regime that could easily transfer the chips to Beijing or Moscow. The same administration that hired lawyers who don't know how grand juries work now claims they can control advanced.
I'm so glad they said that because that was my schadenfreude all day yesterday. If you don't know by now, the ridiculous lawsuit against AG Tish James and former FBI Director Jim Comey has been dismissed without prejudice by the court because when you put a bunch of rookie prosecutors under Pam Brown-Nosed Bondi in a serious investigation of alleged corruption from the most corrupt White House administration in U.S. history, you're gonna fail. And there was so much wrong with the way they tried to push the narrative of this, and so much wrong with the way they tried to prosecute this, that the judge was like, you are wasting our time. We're done. You're done. We're throwing this out. And I love that for them.
AI exports to authoritarian states. It is corruption wrapped in incompetence. While the world worked, Trump played golf.
Yep.
While leaders built partnerships, Trump built conspiracy narratives. While nations negotiated climate financing, debt relief, energy transition, global health strategy, and mineral supply chain security, Trump whined on social media about being treated unfairly. And while world leaders stabilized the G20, Trump isolated America. The G19 moved forward without the United States. Africa advanced regional development visions. Europe strengthened its coalition for Ukraine. Asia reshaped its supply chains. Latin America negotiated climate funding. The African Union gained global influence. The world adapted. America did not. Donald Trump humiliated himself not because the world insulted him, but because the world proved it didn't need him. His absence made diplomacy stronger, not weaker. His boycott did not weaken the G20, it strengthened it. He isolated the United States, fractured alliances, empowered adversaries, and exposed himself as the weakest link in global governance. We are anonymous. We are everywhere. And we remind you the world has already shown it can move on without Donald Trump. The question now is whether Americans will move on too.
I hope so. Because it's like I said, and thank you so much, Anonymous, yet again for speaking truth to power, for shining a light on corruption and incompetence and beyond. But it is like I said, as I paint this adorable holiday cow, that when you act the way Trump acts in a world that is connected now, this isn't like even 20, 30 years ago where access to each other was still a little bit more limited. We are now globally connected through things like media, social media, and just sites that specialize on bringing people together. And world leaders understand that and want to reflect on that. And so many people have slept on Africa and its growth. They want to focus on what's going on in the Sudan as if Africa is not an entire continent of countries. And some countries are an issue, but you've got bigots like Trump who say things like white genocide, and people salivate at that lot. And the sad part is he missed out on an opportunity to try to at least fix some of the trade oopsies that he did with Xi Jinping. Try to get us better deals, Mr. Art of the Deal. But instead, he tantrum. He had that weird outfit change. I guess he was trying to entice Melania to come back to him after she probably salivated over that young mayor of New York guy. I swear to you that if we make it to 2028, if this guy doesn't choke on a cheeseburger and get replaced by the couch fucker who will definitely be replaced, we will see such rapid growth and prosperity again because the person that we get to replace this farce of an administration is going to be doing their homework because we are all studying what needs to be done. We are going to have to kowtow to so many world leaders that he burnt bridges with. We are going to have to find our way back to the UN yet again, and the trust is gone. Because every goodwill thing that President Biden did for this country, Trump has eroded in less than a year. Need I remind you, it's been less than a fucking year of this. And if you are not tired every freaking day from this nonsense, are you even alive? Do you have a pulse? It is insanity to me that some people think that this is still okay. But I shouldn't be shocked because some of you really think he's here to make it great for you while bad for others. And we keep telling you, if you're not in his income bracket, if you are not seeing 7, 8 figures, you are not the people he's going to look after. Not with his great Gatsby parties, not with his golden glitter White House, not with his gilded ballrooms, which no average American citizen, even though we're footing the bill for it, is ever going to want to be in or set foot in. It is a mess. You've elected a wannabe dictator, and he is not making the country great, no matter how much he tries to lie and bleat about it. All right, that's looking sharp. We're gonna do a little bit more blending of the browns on this cow because I'm liking the way it's looking. But we are going to fire up something fun before I wrap stuff up because, like I said, these crafting chats are a way for me to get out the venom of politics and social issues, but I also want to have a little bit of fun, and that is going to be the themes on Saturdays as well. No politics, no social issues. It's a freaking break from all of it. Finding fun stuff on the internet to laugh, talk about, and just get out of our systems. And I have a whole lineup, especially since it's Thanksgiving, stuff like families celebrating, struggle meals, and just fun, heartwarming stuff. It'll be a less visceral. I might throw a cuss here or two because I cuss like a sailor. I can't help it. I was raised by a sailor. So either way, I'm gonna get this fired up because it's true. Tom Perrell brings up that Gen X are different. We just are. And as somebody who is on the cusp of Gen X, I don't call myself a Zennial because I was born in the 70s, baby. I feel like we just had a different mindset, and I want to play this video for you to hear why we are just a different breed. So let's get this fired up with Tom Powell.
when I say to people who ask me for advice, I can't give you advice because you're 22, 25, 33, 19, whatever the age is. You're whatever your age is in a world that I don't recognize. So my advice would not suit the world you live in. I mean what I say. I don't recognize the world we're living in. And there are a million examples of how the world I grew up in is different than the world that my kids grew up in, and is different than the world that my grandchildren are growing up in. I can come up with a million little examples, but here's one small example. This is obviously not the entirety of my generation. My generation is Gen X.
There's a lot of us, though. He's about to say something that I will wholeheartedly agree on because this is the way I grew up.
But it is a not so insignificant section of my generation. Our parents never knew where we were.
Yep.
Ever. There was no device in our pocket to track us down, to track down our location. There was no GPS pinpointing of our location. There was no texting us and figuring out where we were. They had no idea where we were, and in a lot of cases, they didn't fucking care. As is evident by the fact that major networks used to have to get major TV and movie stars and radio stars and music stars to do television commercials to remind people that they had children.
Yeah.
By telling them, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? Yes, this is a real thing.
Yep.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
This is real, y'all.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Andy Warhol.
Yes.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your
These are all
children are?
celebrities, by the way.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Oh my God.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Do you know where your children are?
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
A PSA?
Wait, yep. We grew up with parents that let us just run free. And by let us, not me. Because I grew up in a Latino household.
I was
and
about to
the
say, what do you
oldest,
mean?
And I had to set the example, so I was let out. But you were let outside and you came home when you were called or when the street lights came on.
Oh, wow.
And to add to that, lady, because yeah, my friends who grew up in Latino households had maybe a different experience because like my one friend's mom was super strict and did not let her hang out with us as late as we could hang out. I mean, times in New York City where when my big cousins wanted to do something late at night, like just hang out by the bridge and watch people tag stuff or tag stuff themselves, they would drag my young ass out with them because why not? And a lot of times because my mom was at work or if it was a weekend out in the clubs herself, nobody knew what the fuck was going on. And as long as we got back in the house before everything, went down and the adults got home, nobody knew. And my family had a rule if you didn't get caught, you didn't get in trouble. So a lot of times shit like that happened, but just in general during the summers, we would leave the house, end up halfway across the borough, because I lived on Staten Island, just doing whatever. Sometimes we'd be at like Clove Lakes Park or, Bear Mountain of all places. Uh-oh. Sorry, y'all. Give me just a moment. I got so animated with reminiscing. I'll have everything back up in just a second here. But we got to a point where we could just leave the most of the day. But once those street lights are on, and if we were around the block, once your mom literally called for you, you better have had your ass on your way or in that house. There was no playing around. There was no joking around. Oh, good. My stand did not break. Yay. make sure that it is focused on the cow. Yes. When I say you had to be in, mama wasn't playing, daddy wasn't playing, aunts and aunties, because if you had a big family like mine, there was always some auntie hanging out the window making sure that you heard your mama when she yelled for you. But the fact that we had these PSAs, and I remember it like it was yesterday, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children is? Or are? It's crazy because it feels like a whole nother world away. And it literally happened to a lot of us.
That was my curfew growing up. There was no time. Be home at 6, be home at 7, be home at 8. It was when the street lights came on.
Yep.
And it was one of those deals where obviously you couldn't be in the house the moment the street lights came on, because you never knew when they were going to come on, right? Because it was all based on when the light was dimming in the sky. But when the street lights turned on, before the sun went all the way down and it was all street lights, you had to have your ass home.
Yep.
So between the time that the street lights came on and the sun went completely down, if your ass wasn't in the front, or my ass wasn't in the front door, it was ass whooping time. And yes, celebrities had to do commercials saying it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Because it's like they didn't even fucking care. It's like, well, yeah, I guess we got some kids somewhere around here, don't we? Oh yeah, that's right. We got to go. Are they in the house? Did they do their homework? Are they showered for tonight? It's just when you hear somebody from the Gen X era say we raised ourselves.
Yes, and our siblings.
We did. We got ourselves up. We got ourselves fed. We got ourselves dressed. We got ourselves off to school.
And a lot of us had to come home with a latchkey around our necks and make dinner and clean. Like, people think I'm joking that I had to learn how to cook and clean at the age of 8 years old because my mom had to work. She and my dad had split. I was in charge. I had to take care of 2 siblings and the house. And heaven forbid if stuff wasn't done. I'd make dinner. I'd wrap her up a plate. I get my homework done. I make sure my sisters got their homework done. I got to bed at sometimes a reasonable hour if I didn't stay up too late playing on Nintendo or whatnot. I was always a video game girl. I didn't care. But more than likely, I had to have everything done before she got home, be in the house before she got home if I decided, oh, I'm going to play cutesy and go outside for a bit after all of that. And then be up the next morning to do it again. So I said, routine has been a part of my life for a long time, and it helped, with grandparents backing up with their military style way of life, that it was just natural for me to do stuff like that. But that is the reality of being a Gen Xer. They say we were like the feral generation because we could go out in the fucking woods and find shit to do. I'm glad there wasn't a YouTube or a video streaming service back then, because the stupid shit that we did would have more than likely gone viral. There was a different time and a different age for real.
Like when I was a kid, my mother would take me to my grandmother's house, and my grandmother would get us all up and moving. After that shit stopped, obviously, and I was going to live with my father and shit like that. Got myself up, got myself dressed, got myself out, got myself home from school, got myself in the door, had a snack, did my homework, and then went off and fucked off with my friends. And before my parents ever got home.
Yep.
I would see my parents late at night before we were going to bed. You'd be like, hey, what have you been doing today?
If you're lucky.
Go to school today? Yeah, oh yeah. We aren't exaggerating when we're telling you this shit.
Nope. And that was Tom Powell. And seriously, one of the things that I have explained to kiddo, besides the Dewey Decimal System, which makes him go, huh? Because by the time I started taking him to libraries, they had retired it. And explaining it was easier when I showed him that scene in Ghostbusters when all the little drawers and the cards flew out. This is what people use in libraries to find books. Because he doesn't know an age that hasn't been digital. He really doesn't know an age that you couldn't just go on your phone or tablet or computer and just look stuff up. He doesn't know a world that wasn't truly connected, whereas his mom grew up with an analog world. With things like my dad's car literally had 8-track in it. We literally had housing with wood paneling and that faux astroturf green shag carpet like shit rugs. We had things like lead and asbestos, which explains why so many of us are fucking crazy. I'm just saying. It was a different time period. So I agree with him when people ask for like life advice. Like when I wanted to do the writer's guide, and I still might, try to drop those videos every once in a while, I couldn't help the attitude that I have of if you have a story, just tell it. You may feel that nobody wants to read it, nobody's going to care, but if you have a story that you are passionate about, write it out. Write it out, read it out, and if you can get to a point where you can read your story back and forth over and over again, you'll become a writer. And if you keep at it, you can become an author. I think a lot of people give up because it can be daunting. Like I said, I had to deal with that imposter syndrome voice in my head because, my own family at times were like, why writing? You are smart with numbers. You can do business. Why do this? There's no money in it. And if I had listened to that, I would have never given it a shot. I would have never given it a chance. And that's why I say it's a different generation because you've had more encouragement. You've had people that will tell you, don't give up on your dreams. You can do anything. You even have politicians that lie to you saying that you can get anything free just because. We do not live in the same world when it comes to things. And I'm not saying that just to sound arrogant or egotistical. It really is a different world for you guys because you're used to a world that cares. You're used to a playground that didn't have a slide that during the summer would literally burn the skin on your legs because we all had short shorts back then. Of not having a safety mat, but just gravel to fall into. Iron monkey bars that I fractured my arms falling off one. It was crazy times. The fact that I found out in high school, my high school had an elevator because I had fucked up my leg and had to be on crutches. There was no concern. I still had to get on the city bus to get my ass to school. Don't have non-perfect attendance. That was the reality of Gen X black households. And I'm not saying that it's vastly different from Gen X white, Gen X Latino. A lot of stuff. We have a lot of similarities, but it was a lot different to me as certain things. Some people remember hanging up New Kids on the Block posters. I remember hanging up Big Daddy Kane, Salt and Pepper, Run DMC, all of the godfathers and godmothers of rap. I remember the first collaboration with Run DMC and Aerosmith because my family was a very musical based family. I learned piano early on. I sung for the church and then eventually in school and chorus and stuff. But my mom was really super into all kinds of music genre. What again? Son of a crap. Alright, we're gonna get rid of the camera because I'm just doing the spiel anyway. Or, that's a good angle. We got the close up of the cow. Either way, I'm gonna wrap this up with the spiel. One of the things that we loved was playing music from every era. Like from the swing music that my grandparents used to dance to house music, to rock and rap and techno music. Because early 80s new wave was just techno. Whether people want to hear it or not, all that synthesized stuff was techno. And when MTV came out, especially in the early years, it was a lot more rock and new wave bass. So we got a lot more experienced music all over the place. And I'm not saying it's not like that now with like TikTok populating, because I listen to music from all over the world now because of stuff like that. But I just feel like it was a different time. And for us Gen Xers, it's why we lean on just isolation sometimes. It's why we get like annoyed when people want to do things like, oh, I'm going to feud with this person online. We'll say bad things about each other and take it a step further by like, I'm going to dox, I'm going to swat, I'm going to do awful things like that. When we grew up in the generation, okay, you don't like me, I don't like you. You hate me that much. Let's take this outside. We might win, we might lose, but we're going to throw hands and whatever happens, happens. And a lot of times, crazily enough, people tended to become friends after fighting. I can't tell you how many times I see, and I personally in New York had that happen. You go from enemies to friends because of a fight, because you were willing to knock some sense into each other. It's a different world. And I really think people need to appreciate that about us Gen Xers. We're not like the boomers. We're not patient enough for fuckery because we never had that grace. We are willing to learn new things like technology because we came in on the beginnings of the digital age. We did a lot of innovative stuff when it came to music, movies, and just about everything else. You forget some of these rappers that you know now as like legends, like Eminem. They came out years ago. They're in their 50s now. They're just a little bit older than my ass. I just need people to understand that it's not like we're saying Gen Xers are better than anybody. God knows. They're already blaming us for all the ills in the world. I'm just saying we are literally built different. We are literally just leave us the fuck alone. We want to stay the ghost generation only, but we will proudly say who we are because a lot of people, while we're sandwiched taking care of elders and children, while some of us are becoming grandparents or even later on in life becoming parents because we're blended families now, we are in a different mindset than a lot of the younger and definitely a lot of the older. I know that I'm a bit more hands-on as a parent because I didn't have that as a kid. Do I still let my kid go outside because we're on a lot of land and be whatever knucklehead as long as I don't see it? Yes, because that's what we have this place for. But am I cautious when he's doing anything else? Yes. Because I grew up with that. It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? I grew up in a time where Cropsey was literally kidnapping kids on Staten Island and killing them. And there was this man in a freaking van when I was on my way to school. I was in kindergarten. On my way to school, and this weird looking guy that looked a lot like that Rand guy was driving slowly in the neighborhood. And something told me something was off. No older weird looking guy is going to be driving around West Brighton in a van like that. And I took off running. I did not give that person a chance. I got inside my house again, let my grandmother know what was going on, and then I got escorted to school just in case. Because grandma cared. Mom was busy, but grandma always cared. But I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. I still got a lot to do. Hopefully that print will be done because I'm going to print a couple more of those because I really do want one for myself. Greg's co-workers have given me all kinds of custom orders, and having Robin's Devil Fruit is just going to be awesome. But I hope, because I'm probably not going to see you till after Thanksgiving, that if you are doing something for Thanksgiving that is fun, that it's safe, that your family and friends are there, or even if it's just yourself, that you know that even though this year has been tough, that there are people that care. This is a time for those who deal with dark thoughts, like I've had to do with my mood disorder and schizophrenia, that it is okay to reach out. There are going to be times where you feel all alone and those dark thoughts permeate everything, and you need to realize that you don't have to give in. You don't have to give in. There are people that care. But as you can see, the cow is looking awesome. I will get my base back up and my stuff back to where it needs to be in just a bit. But for now, we are going to wrap this up. I want to thank everybody who sat in. Solomon Isles, Red Baron. I like to thank the lurkers. I like to thank the people who re-upload. Well, not re-upload, who rewatch when I upload it to YouTube. Any of the people who re-upload. Any advertisement is good advertisement. And like I said, I took a needed, necessary break, but I'm back now. I feel more confident doing these talking crafts and crafting chats. I love 3D printing and painting. As you can see, the elegoo's in the back, getting that devil fruit painted. We've got our little cow for my friend's daughter. I just got to do the eyes. I am going to wrap this up, y'all. I will show you the finished products on either Saturday or the next crafting chat. I also finished one of my son's gifts. This was a squirrel I was working on a few days ago. As you can see, he's in a Blastoise hoodie. I just have to do some details on his shell, like Blastoise. But this is the stuff that I've been taking my time doing. So if you enjoy listening to political rants, listening to news talk, and 3D printing, or if you just want to listen and don't care about the 3D printing and painting, hopefully you start tuning in again. I know it's not the same format as the Bonnet Chronicles, and there will be times when I'm painting stuff in the bonnet. But honestly speaking, I just wanted you to know that I am okay. I'm on a good regiment. I'm in a good place. And I will see you all soon. Happy Thanksgiving to those of you who celebrate. I hope you have a great rest of your week to those to you who don't. And hopefully the doofus in the White House will give us a little bit of a reprieve so that we can enjoy this weekend full of laughter and fun. But I will see some of you on YouTube for that. Bye.